Hey guys, welcome to my Paint With Me video. I used to paint all the time in high school, but when I got to college, my focus was more on web and industrial design for my studies. It really has been years since I picked up a brush, and I wanted to really just dive back on into it. I live in Chicago, and since I'm surrounded by skyscrapers all the time, I wanted my room to feel like a tropical escape. So I filled it with lots of plants and things that just make me feel at ease. You can see I placed a few plants in the frame as I paint, to give this video more of that crazy plant lady vibe that I strive for. Jokes aside, I really do like the aesthetic of how it looks in the frame. The place where I feel most at ease is always the water. My grandmother lives on a lake, so some of my fondest memories growing up around the water. Looking out at it and hearing waves crash into the shoreline is always so relaxing. So, to channel that sea vibe I was striving for, I hit Google to find some inspiration. I found some sick aerial drone shots people have taken from above of just ocean waves crashing into the shoreline. So, that's where I drew my inspiration from. Although I like the idea of this being an aerial view of the ocean, I also like the idea of this piece feeling a bit abstract as well. So, to quote the great Lord Bob Ross, you could do anything here. The only prerequisite is that it makes you happy. So I'm not going off of one reference in particular, but placing paint down wherever feels right. To get the bright aqua looking blue you're seeing, I'm using a gouache paint. I love how vibrant gouache looks on canvas. I'm also using a bunch of different brushes and strokes to create a variety of different textures. I'm starting to layer in some darker looking blues in the corners to start giving the piece some more depth. No shallow waters here. Our waters go deep like a hipster on the verge of an existential breakdown after being given the wrong coffee order. Alright, so here is where I first started a mistake. I'm not sure where I was going with this, but I just poured a bunch of water onto the canvas and just started playing around with it as I added more paint to it. I'm not sure if this was a good thing or a happy accident. I even started to finger paint a bit by just kind of pushing the paint around on the canvas or pushing the water and adding more weight to it so it would drift in different directions. I even picked up the canvas a few times to get the paint placed where I wanted it to go. After that, I started using a sponge brush to start placing more paint down, adding more texture. I did not know where I was going with this. I was not too happy with it, so I just kept adding new layer after new layer, but it ended up giving it a more unique look. So, c'est la vie. I ended up keeping this process going over the course of a few days, or a few weeks. This piece ended up taking me a while because I kept picking it back up and putting it back down, and sometimes the water would just take quite a while to dry. I started making this heavy water mixture mixed with the paint and pouring it onto the canvas and just repeating that process. Alright, so I'm editing this video right now, and for whatever reason I keep rewatching this clip of the water being poured down right here and the royal blue colliding with the aqua teal coloring. For whatever reason, it's just so satisfying to watch. I wish they would have stayed more separate and held on to their bright coloring. They ended up blending fairly quickly into more of a muted blue. It makes me want to try resin paint pouring because the resin helps to retain more of the paint's original pigment versus blending so easily. So maybe I'll try that out and record it in the future. Once I was finally satisfied with my multiple layers of paint, it was time to move on to the fine details of the piece. I picked up a detailing brush and some white paint to begin to create those wave breaks you begin to see on the shoreline. I figured once I was done with all this fine detailing, I would be completed with the piece. Or so I thought. When I was moving apartments and about to hang up the piece, I noticed something didn't feel right. I decided to add a little bit more blue onto the waves that were crashing into the shoreline to add a little bit more depth and motion back into the piece.